Good evening. I'm Danny Cosin on the Talk of the Town show. Shayna Betts, my co-host, is not here this evening, but we do have with us Captain Erickson and Sergeant First Class Zender from the United States Army Recruiting Office out of Crestview. And one of the reasons that we asked them to join us is because there's a concern in Defeniak Springs about the lack of employment opportunities for our young people. And as a former soldier myself and the father of two soldiers, I wanted to bring to the attention of the community the opportunity that the service offers. And tonight's focus is on the U.S. Army. So, Captain, would you like to kick it off and tell us a little bit about yourself and your sergeant?
Absolutely. I'm Captain Dan Erickson. I've been in the military now for 20 years. I started my career enlisting in 1999 and I joined because I needed a change of pace. I needed to see what else the world had to offer. And so I said, I'll sign up for 4 years and see how I like it, fill it out, and see what opportunities are out there. And at my 4-year mark, I felt like I wasn't quite done. So I said, let me re-enlist. I'm gonna do a few more years and continue this. And I guess 20 years later, I'm still sitting here. So I obviously enjoy what I do. And honestly, I can't see myself not waking up each morning and putting on the uniform, strapping up boots, and doing what I do.
That sounds a lot parallel to how our son entered the Army. He started off with a 6-year obligation, thinking that, okay, I'll do 6 years, I'll have a chance to get a little of life's experience, right. And at the end of 6 years, I'll have my GI Bill. And at the end of 6 years, he was like, I'm kind of enjoying my job and I like this. And he stayed in, and he went in 2003, so that was 16 years ago. So he's still in, and since he entered straight out of high school at age 18, by the time he has his 20, he'll be 38 years old.
That's not bad.
Right.
I'll tell you, it really, the benefits are there. The lifestyle is amazing. I think a big misconception is you get in and they say you got to stay in. And the reason why people have done so long is because they don't have the opportunity to find other avenues of employment, but that's not the case. I believe the military can assist you, can be a stepping stone in whatever direction you're going into, and it's a great way to build a resume. And in the meantime, get your education, get the benefits that the Army has to offer. Myself, I never thought of myself as a scholar, getting school and all that stuff. And I ended up getting 2 master's degrees, and I'm a PhD candidate now.
Wow.
And it's one of those things that we can continue to build on, and you can, and anyone can. And I tell my own children this, and that's why I said my eldest, he's getting ready to ship off next week, and he joined the Army as well. So and it's building that legacy, and it's continuing to do what we do. So
one of the good things about the military, and my focus is on the Army because it's what I've got the most experience with. My father, my father-in-law, myself, our children, we're pretty much an Army family. But the amount of educational dollars and educational benefits is just mind-blowing. When our son got in, when he first went in, he was like, okay, GI Bill. But before his 6 years was up, he had already got his bachelor's degree through Embry-Riddle, courtesy of Uncle Sam.
There you go.
and then after that, time goes on, and he realizes that the professionalism and level of education, the bar is being raised significantly, especially when it comes to promotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he decided, okay, he noticed that some of his fellow warrant officers, most of them had master's degrees and some of them PhDs. And he's like, if I ever want a snowball's chance to make CW5 one day, I need to, at the very least, get my master's degree. So he got his master's degree
Absolutely.
at Norwich in Vermont. I don't know if you've
Oh,
ever heard of it.
absolutely.
Okay, so and it doesn't really have anything to do with aviation, which is he's an aviation officer, warrant officer, but he got it in an MBA, Master's in Business Administration, which has got nothing to do with it, but it's a master's.
That's it.
You know, so we checked that box.
Absolutely.
And then when I was talking to your sergeant yesterday, he was like, it is not uncommon now for senior NCOs to not only have their master's degree, but some of them are starting to go on to their doctorate degree.
Absolutely. I have many senior NCOs and NCOs, even junior NCOs in my formation that are doing that because they understand the importance. And then in the Army, we really try to emphasize the importance of education, regardless of if you're trying to progress within the Army or outside. So we want to make sure that these guys are taken care of in the future, not just for today, what we have in store for them tomorrow. So.
Well, Sergeant, you're the point man over in Crestview, and you're the station commander for the Army Recruiting Office. Can you give us a little bit of information on how young people in our community could benefit from your services?
Absolutely. So the Army can actually offer you a trade, a skilled trade that translates to the civilian sector. So a lot of our soldiers there, whether they serve 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, will be able to go and work at a civilian job once they're out of the military. And once our seniors graduate and they're ready to ship to basic training, I walk up to their graduation ceremony, hand them a big check showing $167,000 in education benefits. So like you guys were saying, they're able to take classes while they're on active duty. The Army gives them $4,500 a year to take classes, on top of the post 9/11 GI Bill, which is one of the most comprehensive scholarships in the United States. It includes their tuition, their books and their fees. It gives them a housing allowance to whatever zip code that their college is located in. So it's the Army does stress education quite a bit, on top of having that skilled trade that they can go and work while they're in college. Or if they decide to just continue on in their career, the Army's kind of plussed up their resume so that they can, continue to work.
So there's an old expression that if you do what you love and what your passion is for a living, you'll never work a day in your life. So having said that, one of the things that I would encourage our young people in the community to do, that if you've got a passion or a love in a certain area, chances are the military can turn that into a career, and you can actually go into doing something that you love and enjoy. And a case in point, since we are a military family, I had a mother talk to me the other day and said, we're looking at our daughter going into graduating next year, and like most young people, she really doesn't have a clue what she wants to do. And I said, well, what does she like to do? And she said, well, she grew up with horses, and she loves horses, and that's all she likes and all she loves, and that's her passion. She said, unfortunately, there's not any jobs for horses in today's military. And I said, actually, there is. There's one unit that still has horses, and they have a MOS for horse handlers, and that's at Arlington, Virginia. And people forget that we have the old guard up there, our honor guard, that gives the last final honors to our fallen heroes at Arlington Cemetery, and they have soldiers that specialize in horse handling up there. And she said, I never knew that existed. So I think one of the biggest misnomers is lack of communication and understanding. People think that the Army is all about shooting and killing. And our daughter, who did 3 combat tours in Iraq, 12 months each, with the Florida Army National Guard. She was a 25 uniform, which is a communication specialist. She sets up talks, command posts, breaks them down, moves, sets them up again, and she never fired her weapon. She never fired her weapon the whole time. And people don't understand that the vast majority of soldiers who are deployed to a combat zone don't fire their weapon. And the ones that are actually in contact are the vast minority of the soldiers.
Absolutely.
For example, I don't know how true this statistic still is, but when I was going through the infantry officer basic course at Fort Benning, they said for every rifle toting trigger puller on the battlefield, there's 20 support staff behind him.
Absolutely.
And so I know y'all are doing the best you can and doing everything possible to try and get the information out there, but unfortunately, people still think that the Army is all about, there's not a job in the Army that doesn't involve trigger pulling.
Right.
You know, so trigger pulling is a big part of the Army, and but there's a lot of other technical skills out there that support our trigger pullers.
Absolutely.
So
There's 150 jobs that are actually in the Army, and infantry is just one of those 150. We have human resource analysts, we have finance people, we have people that fly unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. We have medics, we have x-ray techs, we have religious affairs, chaplains assistants, we have truck drivers, we have logistics people that work in warehouses. One of the great things about the Army is that I always tell the high school students is if you don't want to be in the infantry and you don't want a combat arms job, there's always a job out there that will support them. I tell a lot of kids, it's like if you want to take college classes while you're in the Army, it's like get you a job that's going to put you in front of a computer every day. And it's like once you're finished with your job and you have a lunch break, you can sit there and knock out classes. You could finish a degree before you ever leave the military. So that's one of the nice things about the Army is that the opportunities are out there. Even if you don't want to serve, in the infantry, or you don't want to be an artilleryman or drive a tank, it's like there's other jobs that are out there that are available to everybody.
I was watching a local news channel this morning, Channel 13 out of Panama City, and they were talking about the resurgence in their trade schools over there and how their welding and pipe fitters course is booked up for the next year. And I'm thinking to myself, that sounds a lot like the engineers in the Army. They can teach you that, and they have jobs for welders and carpenters and electricians and concrete layers, and the biggest construction company in the world is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and heavy equipment operators, earth movers, all these opportunities that will serve you for life after the military. And the icing on the cake is the whole time a young person is learning these skills, they're getting paid. Mm-hmm. And when you get out, they're still going to pay you in lieu of an education. So we're just trying to get this information out there to the community and let the parents know that there's some missed opportunities here. What else can you tell us?
So just like you were saying, a lot of these trade schools and community colleges will have these certification programs, whether it's allied health, like respiratory therapy, radiology technician, dental hygienist and stuff like that. You actually have to go to college and maintain a GPA average and then apply to the school. So it's almost like you're getting a 4-year degree from a community college. So you do your first 2 years, you gain your 60 credit hours, and then you apply for this certification program that allows you to work in that field. Well, the Army, at 18 years old with a high school diploma, you can apply to our programs as long as you have the required GPA in specific categories like math and sciences. you can apply to our allied health sciences programs and go directly into it after high school. No community college, directly into the program, and you'll get your certification on the back end of that. Same thing you were talking about the engineers, whether it's a horizontal engineer or it's a heavy equipment operator. It's like you go right into that program, you get the job experience in that career field, and then you can carry that over to the civilian sector if you decide to leave the service. But most of the time, you're getting a pretty good paycheck in the Army, so it's good. It's a good time for everybody.
Okay, so let me draw a nightmare situation for you. Let's say that I graduated from high school and I thought, I don't need the military, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to go sign up for student loans. I end up graduating from college. I've got all these student loans weighing over me. I do the math and I realize probably for the next 10 to 20 years I'm going to be paying off these student loans. I have messed up. How do I turn back the hands of time? How do I get myself out of this debt that I've put me in? Do you have a scenario on that?
So we do. For certain MOSs in the Army or career fields, there actually is some student loan repayment programs that'll be able to pay off incremental portions of your student loans. It pays back the principal of the loan, but it doesn't pay back the interest, so you still have to make the interest payments on the loan. But it'll help alleviate that mountain of debt that a lot of colleges grant their students.
Okay, so does it have a ceiling or a maximum amount that they are willing to pay off on your student loans?
About $55,000. This is about the cap, and you'll get paid incrementally every single year that you sign your contract for.
Outstanding. Another scenario, let's say that I am an academic fast burner and I am really good in chemistry and biology, and that not only did I bury myself in student loans to get that far, but I take the MCAT, the medical school admissions test, and I actually get accepted to a medical school, and I can't afford medical school. I realize that you are the 21st century Army. Once upon a time, and I don't know if this is true or not, and this is the time to find out, that you could take an acceptance letter to a medical school to an Army recruiter, and does that still apply?
Yes, it's still to this day the Edward F. Hebert Health Professional Scholarship Program is still available to the American public. As long as they meet the requirements for the scholarship, and that means having a degree from a four-year university, take the MCAT, and have a qualifying score, they'll still be able to get a scholarship to a medical college, whether it's a DO or MD program that they decide to attend.
So this person who buried themselves in student loan, who was an academic fast burner, and they get accepted to medical school, they can not only get their student loans forgiven up to $55,000, but then Uncle Sam will also pay for their medical school.
So the Edward F. Hebert Health Professional Scholarship doesn't come with the student loan repayment program, but will cover the cost of their medical college.
Okay.
It'll also give them about $2,200 a month in stipend program, so they basically pull a paycheck the whole time that they're in school. So it's a pretty comprehensive scholarship.
I heard there were two other fields that have the same benefits as people who are aspiring physicians, and that is the Judge Advocate General Corps, the JAG. For someone who is accepted into law school, they could do the same thing and bring their acceptance letter to you and say, I've been accepted to University of Florida or Florida State University School of Law, and will you help me with that, understanding that when I graduate from law school, I go serve my country?
So as far as the JAG lawyers go, I believe that they have to have taken their bar and passed the bar, and then they get a student loan repayment program through the Army. They have to apply in Virginia, DC area with one of the JAG recruiters that's out there.
Okay, so
But the HPSB scholarship, the Health Profession Scholarship Program, covers dental school and veterinary school as well.
okay, so I understand that the Army is the only branch left in America's military arsenal that has veterinarians.
That's true. The Army is the only one that has vets. We're the only one that has veterinary technicians as well. So the veterinarians and the vet techs can actually be stationed at any military installation in the world.
So
That's Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, anywhere that they have a military working dog.
So all the bomb dogs, drug dogs, cadaver dogs, all the dogs in all the branches fall under the U.S. Army veterinarian umbrella.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, as previously mentioned, we also probably have a veterinarian assigned at Arlington Cemetery for the horses.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there any place else, to your knowledge, that has horses these days other than Arlington?
From my understanding, I think that's the only place that currently has horses. I know that they do some marine life out in Hawaii, but other than that, I don't think that there's a whole lot of other animals in the Army aside from the military working dogs.
Okay, so I've got another scenario to throw at you. I'm kind of describing myself here. So I'm gonna give you a profile, and you tell me where I would be best fitted into the Army. And a long time ago, about 40 years ago or more, the recruiter hit the nail on the head with me. So let's just say that, to me, school was an opportunity for sports. And whether it was baseball, football, track, weightlifting, wrestling, I was going to school for sports. And the reason I kept my grades up is because I had to stay eligible to play sports. And if I wasn't involved in sports, I was in the woods every hunting season, and I was on the water during the summer, and I loved the outdoors. I was very physical, I was very active. I hated the idea of ever earning a living in an office. What job would you give me?
Well, the Army has plenty of jobs. The first one that kind of comes to mind for either men or women that like the outdoors is probably the infantry.
Cool.
They like to walk around. They like to go camping. They like to shoot their guns. That's one of the jobs that the Army offers that hits all those personality traits on the head. There's also 19 Delta Cavalry Scout. There's the guys that wear the bush suits you see on TV, crawl out into the woods, find the enemy target, laser paint it so that they can drop artillery.
A JDAM.
Yeah, or something along those lines. It's a really cool job, and a lot of people don't think about it. It actually has a $40,000 bonus that comes along with it. So if
Wow.
anybody's interested in that, give
That's
us a call.
something new.
So you didn't get 40,000 when you signed up, I take it.
So the 40,000 bonus is like, say I signed up for 4 years. Is you draw that 40,000 in increments over that 4-year period?
It's actually 6 years.
6 years to be an infantryman now.
Yep.
Wow.
For a $40,000 bonus.
Wow. Okay.
So you sign up for that extended period of time. You get a little bit of a bigger bonus. You get about $20,000 for the first year, and then you get $10,000 on your anniversary the next couple of years.
Okay. So let's just say, hypothetically, that you've got more kids to put in the Army than you can handle. So how do you weed out and save your time and the kids' time? What are some automatically disqualifiers, and who do you want to tell our community that if you've got this, and this, don't waste your time and don't waste my time. Don't even come down here and talk to me. What are some of those situations?
So, for the most part, that's a big swath that you can paint. With waivers, we can do a lot of things. So I can't really comment too much on exactly what would disqualify somebody because we have medical waivers, we have moral waivers, but for the most part, your people with physical and mental handicaps probably should not apply for military service. But the Army has a pretty strict physical screening policy, along with the other services that we kind of weed people out as we go through the interview process, and we're able to do that in our office. So if they're interested, they should still give us a call. We'll let them know based off of our regulations whether they can apply or not.
A really good example on how the Army has raised the bar from my old school Army to the modern Army is I had a friend that I met through the military, and he was one of 5 boys, and he was the only sibling in his family that did not do either state or federal penitentiary time. And he was saved, and I'm talking 40 years ago, he was saved by, when he went before the judge said, I tell you what, I'm going to either give you 4 years Department of Corrections time or federal penitentiary time, or you can come back on this court date I'm going to give you a week from now with the recruiter from a branch of your choice, and I'll go ahead and dismiss your case. So he got a chance, he got a break, and he was the only one in his brother that only one in his family that kept his nose clean and had a stellar, spotless career. And because he knew he had a second chance, he put his heart and soul in it, and he did really well. But that's the exception, and those opportunities aren't here anymore. So is it safe to say that those situations are history?
So the go to war or go to jail terminology that came out probably around the Vietnam era is no longer applies.
That's exactly when this was.
Yeah, we can't, as recruiters, we can't go to a court and leverage the judge and say our applicant is applying for the military, please don't send him to jail.
Okay.
Recruiters can no longer do that.
And because the Army has raised the bar, not just as far as education goes, but I would think a convicted felon is automatic no-go?
For the most part, somebody with a history of felony conviction probably could not apply for the Army. But like I said, with the moral waivers that we have, really it's kind of a generalization for us to say anything about whether somebody could or could not, depending on what the conviction was. Because some people go, they plea, or they're not prosecution, so whether they were charged with the felony is different than whenever they were actually
Convicted.
Correct.
Okay. So I'd like to draw a scenario for you to expound on, Captain. Let's just say, for sake of conversation, that I want to go into the medical field and I want to be the absolute best I can be. So I end up going in as a 68 whiskey combat medic, and I find out that there are a lot higher levels that I could be exposed to and take advantage of, and that there's a system in place, or at least this is the way it used to be, to go to PA school. And if I'm an outdoor adventurous guy that's pretty smart and paid attention in school, a good jumping off point from 68 Whiskey would be 18 Delta, Special Operations Medic.
Absolutely.
And those are the ones that are that go through GOAT school.
Yes.
And they're the ones that end up being qualified to be a physician's assistant.
Absolutely. So we have great opportunities for guys to kind of branch off after they get a little taste. 68 Whiskey Life.
Which is an MOS for combat medic. You go in, you sign up, you can sign up with the recruiter, say I want to be a combat medic, then you go off to, is it Fort Houston?
Fort Sam Houston and San Antonio.
And become a medic, and then you kind of get your Army legs and kind of get a feel, and you really need to work on your PT hard, and then you can assess for 18 Delta.
Absolutely. And we do have a lot of those that do that and choose that route. A lot of good buddies of mine, that's what they decided to do. They ended up, hey, we want to take the walk. We want to go see what we're made of. And I think that's a big part. I think that's a big part of why I'm still in, is there's always that next step. What else can I push myself to do? And if you want to be a Green Beret, Special Forces Long Tab medic, this is something that you have the opportunity to do. They do in-service recruiting, so they will come down to your place of work and say, hey, we like what you're made of. We want to give you a shot to assess. We want you to come out and see what we have to offer. And then if they like it and they like them, they give them the opportunity to go through the Special Operations Qualification course. And then at the end of the qualification course, they are given their 18 Delta and their Special Forces Medic. We also have, for those that meet age requirements, if you choose not to come in 68 Whiskey, we have a direct pipeline where the individual could go straight to SF Medic, and once they graduate the qualification course, they're automatically promoted to E5, which is the fastest way anyone can promote in the military. So,
Well, you were talking about the physician assistant school, so there's actually, once you're in, so this is an inter-service program, so once you're in the Army, you can actually apply and get a master's degree from the University of Kentucky and get a license in physician assistant studies. So there's also another program called the Masters in Social Work program through the University of Fayetteville State, and you can actually, if you have a degree, you're in the Army, a degree in one of the social sciences like social work or criminal justice or psychology, you can apply to this program, conduct all your schoolwork at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, and then you get a 1,500-hour internship. You get a commission at the end of the program, you get a 1,500-hour paid internship, and then you get a master's in social work license at the end of it.
Okay.
You can be a licensed clinical social worker and have never paid for any tuition in the whole time that you were in, and not used your GI Bill either.
Now, the general public probably doesn't know just how highly trained the 18 Delta Special Forces medics are, and the degree and depth that they go into to save soldiers' lives during that golden hour, the first hour that soldier is wounded, and getting him medevaced and out, and being worked on during the whole process. If I find out that this is a subject we don't need to talk about, then you can just Google GOAT school. But is there anything we can talk about?
well, I would say that if someone is interested in really becoming a specialist, and what we consider our 18 Deltas is more than a medic.
Right.
They're more of a field surgeon, if
Yes,
you will.
exactly.
So you think about you're going to a doc, a surgeon, but that surgeon's not going to be able to see everyone within, like you said, that golden hour. So we need responders on the ground, on the line, able to do what that surgeon's going to do, or at least prep that individual for surgery and sustain them until they can reach proper care. So that's where they are. They are our field surgeons on the ground.
So I don't know if this, since we're talking about medical services and how they go everywhere our trigger pullers go.
Absolutely.
I don't know if this is something that you are at liberty to discuss, but you are a multiple Purple Heart recipient.
Right.
So you're a former trigger puller.
I am, and I've had some great opportunities to grow and see a lot of great places. But I was like you, I like the outdoors. I couldn't see myself flying the desk, so there was opportunities out there for me. Even after I commissioned, I wasn't quite ready, and I found a career field in EOD, explosive ordnance disposal. So I'm a bomb technician. In the civilian sector, our police force have bomb squads, our FBI. That's the Army equivalent of what we do. So we just do it in a little bit different environment. Rather than it all being stateside, we may respond to a threat in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, whatever theater we may be in. And it's definitely a threat around the world, obviously. We understand that it's a huge threat. And we need those individuals that are wanting to go out and do that, because it does take a special breed of individual that are willing to do that. But we love to find those guys who are willing and ready to do those kind of jobs.
So what level of care, and do you remember in any one of the Purple Heart scenarios that you earned, how the medical staff came were they like right there?
Oh, absolutely. And it's great too, because like I said, with the 18 Deltas, those are the guys that are
So
saving lives.
you were with the special ops team.
And unfortunately for me, I was with those highly trained individuals, and that's
Okay.
probably why I'm still here today. And it's one of those things that we're grateful for, to have those individuals
Okay.
that are going to do that. But absolutely, like you said, being part of that group, and it was beneficial to me. So.
And the level of care that the soldiers receive post-injury is so crucial and important to getting them either ready to go back to their unit, whether they stay in theater, or to go back stateside so they can continue their care. There's medical facilities in Germany that kind of stabilize a lot of the folks that are coming out of theater. And then they ship them either to Walter Reed or Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And that's all services. We're talking about Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force. They use Army hospitals.
This is a ton of information, and we're going to need to pay our sponsors right now and take a commercial break. So we will be right back, and we'll have more information as far as a possible future career in the Army. Okay, we're back from our commercial break on Talk of the Town, and we're going to pick up where we left off, and we've had a really good conversation so far. And for the rest of the show, we're going to start it off with educational benefits, which seems to be the top concern for today's recruits. Young people today are interested more than anything else, educational benefits. So would you like to tell us about the educational benefits in more detail? I know you've already told us some, but during the commercial break, I saw you doing some research, and did you have a correction to make?
Yes, I actually was talking about the student loan and repayment program, and I said $55,000, and it's actually $65,000, which is great. The other stuff that I wanted to talk about was the post 9/11 GI Bill. And like I said before, it's one of the most comprehensive scholarship programs in the United States. If you're a student that wants to go to University of Florida, Florida State, University of Miami, the post 9/11 GI Bill will fully fund your tuition to that university for a 4-year degree. It's calculated actually in months. So the months that you don't actually attend school, like the summer, so it's actually 36 months that the tuition assistance will pay for. It'll pay for your books, your fees. If you're wanting to go to a trade school, it'll pay for an apprenticeship. It'll pay for certification programs as well. So if you decide that you want to go to Gulf Coast, or if you want to go to Emerald Coast Technical College or Northwest Florida State College, the post 9/11 GI Bill will actually help you tremendously It also gives you a housing allowance. So currently in Okaloosa County, it'll pay almost up to $1,500 a month for your housing allowance, so that you can go to Northwest Florida State College, or if you live in Crestview and you commute to UWF. So it's a pretty good deal for folks that are either getting out and using their GI Bill benefits. On top of that, you can actually pass down your post 9/11 GI Bill to your family. So if you've served 36 months on active duty, you can pass it down to your family members, whether that's your spouse or your children. You can pass down individual years. So if you have four kids, you can each give them 1 year of college for free.
Now, we've only got 20 minutes or less left in this segment, but you have your master's degree, right?
No, I only have my bachelor's degree.
Okay. Can you give us a snapshot of your time from the time you went down and saw your recruiter, a snapshot of where you were and where you are and the educational benefits that you've benefited from?
Absolutely. So when I joined the Army, obviously I was one of those kids that didn't want to go to college straight out of high school. So I went to the Army, went into the medical field immediately, got a certification, got several certification programs, went to Korea. Still didn't want to go to school, but by the time that I was coming back from Korea, I said, Mark, you have to go and get your degree. So I transferred back to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was working in the hospital there, and I was watching all my other soldiers that were underneath me go to the on-post campus that was on Fort Campbell. And I said, hey, if they're doing that, I should also do it as well. So I walked across the street. They asked me to take the TABE test, which kind of measures your math and English. So I took that test. They said, oh, you did terrible on it. So ended up having to take, math 90, English 80. So I took some classes before I even got into English 101 or college level algebra. So I took all those classes leading up to that. Ended up finishing an associate's degree while I was still at Fort Campbell. Actually finished my last class for my associate's degree while I was in recruiting school in a hotel room. So you can literally take classes anywhere. Finished an associate's degree, and then while I was on recruiting, working 40 hours a week plus, I went to the university, Ashford University, and I finished a bachelor's degree in human resource management. So I was working a full-time job and doing full-time school the whole time. I let the tuition assistance, which is up to $4,500 a year, cover basically all of my tuition, and paid for an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree.
That's pretty impressive. And speaking of impressive, Captain, I understand you're a PhD candidate.
I am, sir, yes.
Can you kind of give us a snapshot of?
And I tell you, like I said before, it's one of those things that I'd never seen myself as, one of those scholastic kids, one of those in the classroom. I struggled. I went to college prior to coming in the military. I was one of the student repayment. I needed a plan because I seen the pile of debt that was coming with it. I needed a good plan, so I went down and talked to recruiters. Said, "Hey, we got a good plan for you. We're going to take care of that debt. Not only that, we're going to get you this GI Bill, and you can continue to go to school. We have tuition assistance. I mean, we're gonna make sure you're taken care of. And
Not just when you get out, but while you're in.
While you're in, which
Okay.
is great. So I said, okay, well, I need that special attention. I know a lot of these guys, they are able to do online, like we discussed on the break. We need the classroom. I need someone face to face. We had those opportunities because on the Army installations, you'll have classrooms set up by the local colleges, so you're able to do that. So I said, I got to take advantage of this because where else am I going to get to go to school for free? And someone's going to be there to talk to me and tell me what I need to do to accomplish this. So, having had my undergrad, I said, I think I want to try this master's thing. Again, never thought I'd be going to grad school, getting a master's. So I did that. Like I said, it had the classrooms on installation for me. So the process was super easy. We have an ed center that's set up. They take care of all the labor for you. You just sit back and say, I want to do this. And they say, okay, we're gonna have you do this. And I said, I want to get a degree. I want to have my master's degree. Okay, here's your plan. You're set up for the next few months. And it was the most accommodating thing I've ever seen. Coming from civilian sector, going through my undergrad, it was not the same treatment. You want to come to our college, you want to go to school here, you're going to do the late work, you're going to figure it out, you go talk to a counselor. Total opposite as far as my experience once I joined the military. Someone was there to babysit me basically and make sure I was doing the right thing and getting my foot in the door. Once I did that, I said, when I finished my master's, I said, I'm not done. I want to continue this. As accommodating as it is, I wanted to do more. So I went back to school, wanted to get an MBA. Because again, you know,
Are we talking about your second?
my second master's.
Your second master's?
Yes. So again,
Wow.
I wasn't quite finished, and I said, I still have money in the bank. I still got this GI Bill. I've got a lot of opportunities. I gotta seize the moment. I'm gonna do this. I'm still in the uniform, and they're taking care of me. I'm still collecting the paycheck. So I went back to school. Got that done. I go, okay. Well, you know, you always think you're done. You always think you're done while you're in the moment. You say, okay. Well, I took a little break. I said, I'm not quite done. I think that's the same thing while I'm still wearing the uniform. I'm not quite done. When you enjoy what you're doing, like you said earlier, that's not work. School's not work when you're enjoying what you're doing. If you're educating yourself and you're learning and you're pushing yourself further, it's one of those things. So I said, let's see where else I can go with this thing. So there's some opportunities that we have within the military for guys in a similar situation that want to get their doctorate, or want to do a PhD in one of their programs that they like. Maybe something that you've been doing for 20 years, you feel like you're the subject matter expert at, and you want to go on and teach that one day. These are opportunities for us that wear the uniform to go and do that, whether it's to teach at the West Point Military Academy or some other university. So we have those opportunities in place. So if education is something that, one, you don't think is for you, or you're not going to have it, or two, you just don't know how to do it, and you don't know what steps to take, it makes it real easy for them to be guided into the direction they need.
So how far are you from the finish line of having your PhD?
So what they do is they break it up into basically two sections. You have academics, which runs about 36 months of academic work.
Then your dissertation?
Then dissertation, which is about another 36 months. But the military is very accommodating. If that's what you're doing, your chain of command understands that's what's doing, they're going to make sure that you're taken care of and you're able to go and do and take the time. I know when my guys come to me, sir, I got some school I've got to take care of. Absolutely. We're going to make sure the mission is accomplished, but we're also going to take care of you. So that's one of the things that we really instill in the military and in our formation.
So if you invest in your people will pay back tenfold, basically. Whether that's having a well-trained, well-balanced, trainable workforce within the service.
Just in one generation, or my lifetime, I have seen the bar raised so high across the board in the Army as far as education, the caliber of people that they're willing to accept. When I first started 40-something years ago, a DUI was nothing. Now it's the kiss of death. You can hang up your career on a DUI. So the Army has consistently been raising their bar, and it makes me very proud to not only know that, but to know that my children are a part of that. So with the little bit of time that we've got remaining, I'm going to ask you, tell me if this is still true. There are basically 3 avenues you can go in the Army, and it's enlisted, warrant, and commissioned officer. So they're all 3 different jobs in different areas of expertise. And I've got a daughter that went up through the enlisted ranks, and she's very happy and proud to be a senior NCO now. And I've got a son that decided that he wanted to go the warrant officer route. So, and then there's the officer route. So if a kid is trying to decide, what should I do? Is there anything that you could help a young person decide which is the best way for them to go?
So I'll talk about the enlisted and warrant officers, and maybe you can talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about the officer route. So if you have a high school diploma or a GED, then enlisting into the Army is the way to go. So you can get a trade, you can get some education along the way, and then if you decide that you want to transfer into a field, such as warrant officers, you have that ability without having to have a bachelor's degree. The enlisted jobs are more of a technical job. So you have a skilled trade, you have non-commissioned officers, which are not commissioned officers, and you don't need that bachelor's degree to move into those positions. The warrant officers are again, they're a technical officer, basically. They go to their own warrant officer schools. When they graduate that, they'll also have some additional certifications that go along with that. But one of the things that you were talking about was your son, who's actually a pilot. So that's one of the opportunities for soldiers in the Army to apply to a flight school. It's actually the fastest way to become a pilot in the military is to go through the Army's warrant officer flight training program. But there's also other technical warrants that are out there, from logistics to medical warrants to intelligence and cyber operations, electronic warfare operations, warrant officers as well.
One of the little bits of trivia that our son brought home to us from warrant officer school that he liked surprising daddy, and I like being surprised. I like learning new things. And he said, "Dad," he said, "you'll never believe this, but did you know the Army's got more boats than the Navy?"
Absolutely.
And I said, "I had no idea. I thought that's what the Navy was all about." And he said, "Oh, by the way, we've got more pilots in the Air Force?" And I said, "Are you serious?" And he said, "Yeah."
Absolutely.
So, and he said, "Did you know that there are more?" In his mind, there's two worlds of warrants. There's walking warrants and there's flying warrants, and there's a lot more walking warrants than there are flying warrants. And as part of their student education, he said, and guess which type of warrant officer, which has the highest percentage of doing time at Fort Leavenworth? And I said, I don't know. And he said, supply warrants, black market.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I learned a lot from him because I didn't get to see the world of warrant officers. The only time I saw them was, they didn't have Blackhawks in my day, they had Hueys. They didn't have Humvees, they had Jeeps. It's when the warrants dropped us off or resupplied us, and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So it was a nice peek into a different world for me. So that's what he did. Our daughter, I said what I did about how happy she is. So can you tell us something about the officer branch?
Absolutely, and it's one of those things where a lot of times when you join, you're not sure what you want to do. Yeah, I'm one of those guys that've been in 20 years and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. You're waiting for that. And after going to college, and I enlisted, and I did 10 years enlisted prior to commissioning because I wanted to fill it out. I didn't know what the military was all about, and I needed to get my foot in the door and see what it is that I wanted to do. And then I started to have mentors and leaders who kind of guided me and said, "Hey, Dan, this is some stuff that we want to see for you. We want to see you continue to grow and maybe a different facet than what you originally came in." And I was very happy. I loved being enlisted. I loved every moment getting up and doing what I did. But it was being able to see it in a different light. Well, being able to lead soldiers from a different side of the house. And I wanted to experience that. I could watch an officer do it, but I wanted to know what it is that made that guy an officer and how I could do it too. So learning that, we talked about education. If you have 90 plus hours, you're a senior in college, and you would like to be a commissioned officer in the Army, you can apply for our Officer Candidate School, OCS. And this allows guys that have never experienced the military, been in the military, an opportunity to basically go to basic training, and they follow on straight to officer candidate school, and at the end of their 14-week training period, they're commissioned into the Army. And then they'll go on to further training, obviously, through their officer schools and branches and their specific branches. But there's always continued growth. And I think I hit and alluded to that before. Even if you come in enlisted or warrant or something like that, these opportunities are still going to be there for you. And if you choose, like, I'm straight out of the gates, I'm coming out of college, and I think I'm ready to be a leader. I'm ready to strap that up and commission today. We have those opportunities for those individuals as well. And I think it's great. It gives you a, if we're talking corporate civilian side of the house, you're talking walking into, middle upper management. And that's really what it equates to. So.
And if you're the type that does not relish a desk, that would not be for you.
Probably not. We have certain MOSs and jobs specific that may alleviate some of that desk time.
And I'm sure you've checked every one of those
Yes,
out.
I have, absolutely. I've made sure to. But we all, it's one of those things that we accept as our fate. And as we continue up the ranks, yes,
Right.
you're going to become one of the desk jockeys. And so.
A surprising statistic that I heard just yesterday was that only 10% of the people who go into the Army end up retiring from the Army.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons I would like to think that statistic is so low is I have a theory, so y'all tell me if this is right or wrong. Our daughter, when she was with the State Department, was serving in the U.S. Embassy in Berlin when she met who she didn't realize would be her future husband, who was a Marine embassy guard. Well, he got out at his 6-year mark. He decided, do I want to stay in or do I want to get out? Well, he got out and used his GI Bill to get his bachelor's degree, and because he went year-round on campus, he got his 4-year degree in 3 years because he went, during the summer semesters. And then it came time for him to pick an agency to intern with. Okay, well, he interned with the FBI, and they ended up picking him up. And the reason they picked him up was because his bachelor's degree was like, who cares? Everybody that applies for the FBI has a bachelor's degree. But if you've got that degree plus military experience,
You're a hot commodity.
you go to the head of the line.
Absolutely.
And they actually have a name for that, and it's called veterans preference.
Yes, sir.
So I think a lot of kids that say, I want to go get my educational benefits, my GI benefits, but I don't want to do a career. That sounded like a pretty good plan for him, and it's worked out well. So you're not here selling kids to make a career. You're here selling kids to increase their options.
Absolutely.
And to be a better product when they go out into the working world, and they have to have a resume.
Absolutely.
A resume that says, not only do I have a degree, but I've got this golden piece of paper here that says honorable discharge, which means I kept my nose clean and I was a good soldier and I did what I was told to do. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. And if any of our local kids are trying to decide what to do, our closest Army recruiting office is in Crestview. And would you like to, in closing, tell our audience how to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. You can either call our phone number at 850-689-3805, or you can find us on Facebook at Army Recruiting Crestview. Basically, we're also on Highway 85, 1094 Verdon Boulevard, in between the Subway and the Little Caesars.
Okay, Shani, I hope you're back with us next week for another Talk of the Town. And I would like to thank Captain Erickson and Sergeant Zinner for coming and giving their valuable time and trying to help our community. Thank you.
Thank you.